All right, thank you guys. I'm hoping this will be a short one. Can you guys hear me? Let me know. Let me know if you guys can hear me. I'm doing this from my computer, so normally Mboko. Thumbs up if you can hear me. This won't be long because the Kuwato Sita, so okay, thank you, Nancy. All right, guys, good morning, and thanks for your time. We'll try to make this quick. So, I'm guessing like me, you've also noticed that PDI has started a hashtag. I believe Halifa can win. Um, yeah, that's something that's believable, but certain criteria have to be met, and one of those is, which is why I try to qualify it. I believe Halifa can win if um, the main thing with that regard is looking at the current political situation in the country in terms of aggregates and party support base and everything that's going on there. So on the face of it, from assessing it from a layman's perspective, if you're going to win the presidency, you're going to have to beat both the incumbent and also the UDP. The only party that needs to beat one party is UDP. That's it. They'll just need to beat the incumbent and they'll be in state house. Everybody else, you need to beat both the incumbent and you also need to beat the UDP based on the support base and the aggregate support base. So, in that regard, Halifa can win if he can beat the UDP in the traditional basis of the UDP. And is that realistic? We will get into that. And I will tie that the fact that we need to vote Barrow out with the latest episodes. I know people are. It's even a shame to say that people are getting used to these kinds of nonsense that is coming from the Barrow camp, from them yelling at people at meetings and this tribal baiting like Dambo Bojang is doing right now. Uh, essentially, now we know. We've been complaining why is Barrow inviting ethnic groups to the state house. The one prominent ethnic group that he is not invited is the Mandinkas. And this is what they think about them because Dembo Bojang is one of his advisors. And we've seen his advisors coming out to defend him in whatever he does, even though they know it's wrong, tribal baiting. So let's say, for example, God forbid, and we are confident that we will have a UDP win come December 4th, in 4 days. But if Barrow wins, how do you think we're going to live in that country? Because that will be, a vindication of his position, testament to the fact that whatever they're saying about the Mandinkas is true and is upheld by so many other Gambians. So how are you going to live with your neighbors that are Mandinkas? That, yeah, we didn't want you to win because if you win, you're going to kick us out of this country. Or because we believe that you are not patriotic citizens, that's why we didn't vote for your party. This is the danger of labeling political parties as tribal outfits when there is absolutely no evidence to back that up. Just like it will be unfair to say APRC is a Jola party, it is unfair to say that UDP is a Mandinka party because these are polarizing statements. We teetered on the brink every election from 1996 to 2016 because whenever the results are announced and APRC wins, we know what happens on the streets. Because people lived under tyranny, there was nothing they could do about it. But Barrow is promising democracy, and because Gambians have chosen democracy, he cannot do anything about that in an environment where he has polarized the nation so much, labeled the Mandinkas as the bad citizens of the country, and rallied all the other groups around himself. How do you think he's going to live with himself trying to unite the country with the Mandinkas already seeing themselves as the people that are hated in that country? How is he going to do that in a democracy? the stability of the country depends on it. That Barrow gets voted out. You do not provoke ethnic groups, especially the largest in the country, and hope to rule the country or govern the country in stability. It's not going to happen because we know what the Gambians are like. When they get their way, they start taunting you and start saying mean stuff, and that would not be tolerated in that country. It's not a threat. It's not an intimidation. It's not, taking a position on anything. It's just a fact of life, and we need to live our lives based on the facts and realities that we have. These provocations, people are taking it because we know that we have a chance to change it and chart a better course for the country come December 4th. We know that we can do that. It's in our hands. But if that expectation is not met, and then Barrow continues to be given another mandate in that country, you can be rest assured that he will not be able to govern that country in stability. Why? Because he has already polarized it. There's nothing he can do to turn that around. His advisors are telling him, they're saying it on public platforms, in open forums, spewing lies here and there. Who in their right mind? Ask yourself, if you are not a Mandinka, ask yourself, who has the power to kick you out of a country that you were born in, that your father was born in, your grandfather was born in, all your ancestors that you know were born in? Who has the power to kick you out of that country? Ask yourself that question. It doesn't matter what mechanism they use. You don't even need to debate, say, oh, yeah, whatever. No, just ask yourself, who has the power to do that? Then you are not the son of that land if that is able to happen to you. Yes, people get persecuted and they run away to safer heavens. We get that. But an entire ethnic group, like I said in my post earlier, Rwanda, they had the fight, Tutsis and Hutus. But when peace prevailed after nearly 2 million people were killed, what happened? In Rwanda, you still have the Hutus and the Tutsis. So you cannot exterminate an ethnic group. You cannot cleanse a country of an ethnicity. It's impossible. So them coming out and telling people that, oh, this is what's going to happen, that's what's going to happen, they think that you are not smart enough to figure out that this is something that's impossible, totally impossible. But they will come to you thinking, oh, they are naive, so we can sell this to them and they will buy it. December 4th is here. The ball is in your court. You can either choose to kick these idiots out of State House, let us have some sanity back in our country, or you can choose to see what the next 5 years is going to bring with their perpetual attack on an ethnic group, because they are not going to stop. That's a fact. They are not going to stop, and the response will come. So the choice is yours. There are various options out there. It doesn't have to be UDP for you, which brings me back to my main point. Khalifa can win if he can take UDP, traditional UDP strongholds away from UDP and then beat the incumbent. Realistically looking at it, do you think that that's a possibility right now? Not to say that Khalifa is any less, patriotic or any less of a person, but when it comes to investing in politics in the ground game, nobody has invested more than the UDP. That's a fact. Whether you like UDP or not, you gotta respect their ground game. They are the most invested. So that has yielded benefits for them, where you hear people saying, okay, UDP's fixed deposit is this place or that place. Say, for example, RRR. So if Khalifa wants to win, or PDIS thinks that they can win, they have to wrest control of, say, for example, Badibus and LRR away from the UDP, and then CRR away from the president, who is actually struggling for his life in those places, thanks to our able grounds uh, game players like MB Krubari and his team out there. So for him to win those things, he's going to need to wrest control of those. And UDP has very loyal base. Nobody needs to tell you that. NPP tried to carve their niche out of the UDP support base. Where did that land them? We also how Yundum went yesterday, where one of the National Assembly members that was expelled, that's his constituency. So there is our expectation, there is our hope, there is what we would like to see, but then there's the reality on the ground. When it comes to political bases, the UDP has the strongest base among all the opposition parties. That's a fact. Nobody can deny. And sometimes you'll hear people in PDS saying, "Oh, there's no such thing as the biggest political party." That's a fantasy. With all due respect, there are big political parties, and there are parties that are smaller than big political parties, because democracy is about numbers and aggregates. If we look at the current trend or the way things stand, we don't have polls in the Gambia, but from the last elections that was contested by parties, UDP won the largest majority, 37% of the votes for the National Assembly elections, which earned them like 31 seats in the National Assembly. The next, or the runner-up, was APRC and GDC. They both came with, 5 seats, but GDC's was 17%, APRC's was 16% based on the total votes. So if you add those two together, the second and third place, or the runner-up and the third place, if you add them together, their total votes are still less than what the UDP had. So second place, third place, their total number of votes and the percentages that they have, you add them together, there's still a gap between their two totals combined and the totals of the UDP. So you can say, okay, UDP lost supporters, UDP lost to Barrow and all that, but do you think between 37% and 17%, how much did UDP lose? If they lose, you know, to be very generous, you can say they lost 7%. That still puts them at 30%. So realistically, where we stand, based on those numbers, we know that the UDP has the strongest base. And if you're we all are biased, but if you're objective enough to look at it and see things for what they are, like Bibi Dabo did, you will realize that okay, these people have a good grounds game, and if I'm gonna half a way to the presidency, I need to beat both the UDP and beat the incumbent in order to be able to go into state house. Realistically, is that possible for the PDIS to do? I'm not saying deny Halifa your votes or anything, but if you are skeptical that Khalifa is going to struggle to beat both the UDP and the incumbent, if you have that skepticism in you, what is needed, looking at what is going on in the country, is that we kick out Barrow. And the biggest chance we have for that, with the simple majority alternative, is that we vote for UDP. We're going to have Khalifa go to elections and not win anything, so we are not going to say, oh, don't vote for him. But if you are skeptical, there are people who will be confident no matter what that he's going to win. Sure, go ahead and vote for him. But there are people that will be skeptical, like, yeah, even though I love the man, I like his policies, and I want him to be the president, realistically, it's not possible. If you are that, then cast your vote to UDP. Khalifa will have more impact in the UDP government. I mean, when the UDP government is in place, Khalifa's impact in the country will be greater than it is currently. Because UDP promises one thing, at the very least, if you expect nothing from the UDP, at the very least, democracy will be the order of the day, the rule of law. Nobody will ever get away with infringements on the law, from the president all the way down. And Halifa, being the constitutionalist, he will best operate under a system where the constitution is guaranteed to be the order of the day, so that his views and whatever he puts across, basing it on the constitution, it will be actually implemented. Not these people that skirt the constitution, they don't care about it, they don't even know what it contains. He cannot operate in there, it will all be political. But if he brings, genuine, valid points, as he does, with regards to governing the country, say, for example, something is done regarding the budget and it's not constitutional, and he brings it up, then the government has to defend it. If they want to keep that track record, with the UDP, I know will want to do, to maintain democracy in the country and govern by the rule of law, then his impact will be felt more. When I was on the debate over the weekend regarding, who we think is going to win, um, I did bring up this fact, but I did not, I mean, this statement, but I did not elaborate on it further. So if you look at it in the dynamics of Gambian politics, I have always maintained that in terms of ideology, there's two parties, UDP and PDIS. And some will say, oh, UDP has no ideology. Okay, you can believe whatever you want to believe. But Mr. Ba actually pointed out what the PDIS has been doing. And even yesterday or the day before, we see Jenaba Ba, when she was giving her speech, when Tida Kijera came to UDP, full of praise for the PDIS. One thing, we can bicker on social media and all that, but officially, I know that the UDP has respect for the PDIS, just as the PDIS has respect for the UDP, and we recognize what they do in the country. We're not going to try to diminish that. That's a fact. So, in my view, these are the two political parties that should be debating. SFL can jump in, but in terms of veterans that we can consider is UDP and PDIS. So from my own perspective, how the PDIS operates is they look at the country and say, if we educate the people enough, they will make the right choices. So their civic education, telling people what their rights are, what the roles and responsibilities of government are, that's their goal. We educate them enough, they will make the right decisions, and that right decision they will come to find out is PDIS. So they will give what they need to give in terms of educating and enlightening the people through FROIA and their civic education platforms and everything, and then sit back and expect the people to do the right thing. When they don't, the right thing being voting for PDIs, when they don't do that, they vote for somebody else. PDIs takes this position of, it was your choice. Like, for example, 2017, when people started complaining about, how Barrow is um, not going according to the expectations of the people, he was saying it on Kerfaru, well, we brought forward a strategy to have system change, but you want a regime change, even saying that even if we put a dog, you're going to vote for a dog. So, you have your regime change. So, from my perspective, this is what it is. They try to educate the people, they give them the alternatives. This is the role of government, this is what it needs to be, and expect people to do the right thing by voting for PDIS. And if people don't, now they leave them with their choice. Like, you decided this, it's your choice now. We're going to continue what we're doing, which is to say, okay, role of government, role of citizens, citizen enlightenment. That's it. The government that you voted is the government you deserve, and they're going to do what they're going to do. We're just going to continue what we're doing. The UDP, on the other hand, recognizes that fact that enlightened citizens will vote based on policies. But that doesn't take away from the fact that when you vote in a government, that government needs to act right by the citizens who had expectations in them. This is why when UDP stands on its platforms, it calls out Yaya Jammeh and all his excesses. It's not like, oh, Gambians voted for him, so whatever he does, that Gambians deserve it. No, they call him out and call him out and call him out. You are voted into office. Some people do so based on tribe, some will do so based on region, some will do so based on whatever reason, but that still doesn't excuse the fact that you have to do what is right by the country. So where the PDIS relies on people to use their, you know, faculties and decipher for themselves what is good, with them helping them to understand what the role of government is, and if people choose otherwise, they resign them to fate and continue doing their own thing, which is why their approach to politics is not as militant as the UDP's approach to politics. They will quote the constitution, they will write letters, they will you know reference points that needs to be observed, but you don't do that with a tyrant like Yahya Jammeh who doesn't respect any aspect of the constitution. They do the same with Barrow. They are not so militant towards him because from my perspective, they educate the people. This is what the government is supposed to do, this is what the right government is supposed to be like, but you guys voted for this guy, well, now anyabal buluje, basically. That's from observing the PDI's approach to politics. This is what you see. They will remind the government, this is what you're supposed to do, that's what you're supposed to do, that's what the constitution said. That is okay if the government cares about the constitution, but we know from Jammeh to now they don't care about the constitution. UDP, on the other hand, will appreciate that people need to be educated. That is why we recognize and respect the PDIS efforts in that. But not everybody is going to be sold on that idea. So even after they make their choice, whether that's a good choice or a bad choice, it doesn't absolve the government of fulfilling its responsibility. And for that, they get called out constantly, which is what runs them into trouble. So it's more like an activist group as well. So we should not try to take away from each other what is rightfully ours by virtue of what we earned in terms of our contribution to nation building, you know. But realistically, looking at the dynamics of our politics and the ground game, you can say everything about the UDP. That will be your own bias. But the fact of the matter is, politics is won through grassroots efforts and continuous engagement, and the UDP is doing everything it needs to do as a genuine political party to earn respect the hearts and minds of Gambians and get them to vote for a UDP government. It is doing that, and that is the sole source of the strength of the UDP, not anything else. Not the lies that is being spewed from State House because they have nothing else to offer. And this whole entire campaign period, you did not hear them tell you one thing that they offered. Oh, I did this, I did that. Even Jammeh is laughing at Barrow now, saying that he did the projects that Jammeh already did. The man is not fit to be in that office. The people around him are not fit to be advisors. We cannot leave our country in their hands. We have given them an opportunity. They have failed. Let us change and give direction, better direction to our country, and we have capable people, competent people, respectable people like Lawyer Usenu Dabo, BB Dabo, and a host of other people in the UDP that have the capacity and are responsible enough to put us back on track as a respectable nation, so that we can look forward to better things rather than this constant bickering and nonsense that is constantly coming from Barrow and his camp. As for Dembo Bojang, it is unfortunate after spending so many decades in politics that he's going to go out this way, to be remembered by people that he is basically a sellout, because nothing that he's saying on that platform is true, and he knows it. You cannot be in the UDP for over 2 decades rubbing shoulders with the likes of Single Nyasi and Femi Peters, and then you expect that the UDP government will come and persecute the very people that suffered and died for that country. People that they know laid down their life for that country. And you were in the midst of those people, but all of a sudden you're going to turn around and say, yeah, this is the kind of people they are. Why were you supporting them all those years then? There's no truth in it. And the worst part of it is that they expect the people that they are talking to buy into their story because they didn't think they're smart enough to figure it out themselves. So let's vote this government out. We got a few days to go, 4 days. Today is November 30th. We got 4 days to go, to bring back sanity. It's our opportunity. Call your people. Let's, keep the ball rolling. We can't give up now. 4 more days, and then we'll be able to have a new country that is respectable among the Committee of Nations. Thank you, guys. We'll be back again tomorrow, inshallah.